Good Saturday morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, we're talking with Mobile County Sheriff Sam Cochran. Now, as most of you know, Sheriff Cochran is a veteran career law enforcement officer. He started as a Mobile police cadet. He rose up the ranks to serve eventually as Mobile's police chief before being elected to the office of Mobile County Sheriff in 2006. We'll talk with Sheriff about a variety of issues this morning, such as Anayas Law, recently passed by the Alabama House of Representatives and now before the Senate. We'll also discuss the disturbing rise in domestic violence in the county. And we'll also ask Sheriff Cochran about the safety of law enforcement officers and the level of respect for officers as they protect the community from harm. In addition to fighting crime and working with legislators on laws to protect citizens and law enforcement officers, Sheriff Cochran has joined the debate now on the Mobile annexation issue, currently being discussed by Mobile's mayor and the city council. Sheriff Cochran's office sent this information to us from a group called Grow Mobile Now. The organization encourages citizens to sign a petition encouraging the growth of Mobile through annexation. Sheriff Cochran went before the Mobile City Council to share his concerns if the city chooses to withdraw police and fire service from the jurisdiction outside of the city limits. The sheriff said that he would have to hire additional deputies, and those recruits could come from the Mobile Police Department. The sheriff said that if that happens, quote, it will be the beginning of the end of Mobile as we know it today. Sheriff Sam Cochran serves the community on numerous agency boards, including the Penelope House, Drug Education Council, the Boy Scouts of America, and the Child Advocacy Center as well. And he was recently appointed to Alabama Governor Kay Ivey's group to study gambling policy. Perspectives and our conversation with Mobile County Sheriff Sam Cochran continues after this break. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Perspectives this morning, and our guest, Mobile County Sheriff Sam Cochran. Sheriff Cochran, of course, is a veteran career law enforcement officer. As we mentioned, he started out his distinguished career as a Mobile police cadet, rising up to the ranks to serve as Mobile's police chief before being elected to the office of Mobile County Sheriff. That was in 2006. And we thank you for joining us this morning.
So very glad to be here, Eric.
Tell me, those years ago, we won't talk about how many, but did you have a dream of this ever becoming what your future would hold, both police chief and the sheriff now since 2006 in Mobile County?
Well, I always had a dream to be in law enforcement, and I guess originally wanted to be in the FBI, but then I started college with a criminal justice degree program, and it helped me. I was able to get some scholarships in criminal justice to help me through the way, and I guess my first aspiration was I wanted to be like the captain of detectives. I would see that on the news, a particular captain, so I kept an interest in it. And so as my career went on, I just kept gaining level, and I continued my education on the side throughout that. And so I've been very blessed and very supported by a lot of people from the city of Mobile and now the county.
Incredible career, and of course a Mobile native?
Yeah, born and raised here, went to elementary school here, high school here, college here. I've got 2 degrees from South Alabama, so I used to say I'm homegrown and home educated, and proud of it. And
well invested here in the area and the community, and we thank you for that. And that leads us to this talk now about annexation, where we talk about where you have now taken a position, I guess we could say, and expressing how you feel about it. And you're talking about this both from 2 perspectives, as a native, a person who's here, who's seen the change over the last 40 years, as you mentioned, and then, of course, on the law enforcement side and seeing the issue of jurisdiction and protection. So what drew you into this perspective of it?
Well, you know, I watched the debate go on for several months between the city council about whether or not to allow people in West Mobile to have a vote to come into the city, and I watched that debate carefully, and eventually the debate ended with a 4-3 vote to allow them to vote to come in. But in Mobile, a 4-3 vote is not a successful vote because of a thing called the supermajority. And then after that vote, the city council made a motion to withdraw their forces from the jurisdiction. There are 70,000 people living in the jurisdiction, which with their responsibility would fall on the sheriff's office. That would cost us about 48 deputies, $4.8 million a year, and that's non-funded. The county does not have the authority to pass taxes, so we would have to take that in our existing budget. So that really concerned me, and so I got to looking into it a little bit more and researching stuff, and started discovering some very disturbing issues. One, I got to looking at how much Mobile has grown. And I started looking from 1970 to present. We have only grown 1.08%. And cities around us, such as Fairhope, has grown 300 and something percent, Daphne 900%. So then I said, well, let me look further. Tuscaloosa has grown 48%, and Huntsville has grown 38%. And we're headed, trajectory-wise, we'll end up being the 5th largest city in the state of Alabama.
Maintain the existing city limits.
That's the way we're going. And had we accepted those 13,000 people, which we knew wanted to come into the city, Mobile would have qualified for between 5 and 10 million more in federal grants for public safety. But one of the other issues they would have benefited from is, with a bigger population, is HUD monies. And that's one of the things we need, is affordable housing in Mobile. And so we killed that possibility. So looking at all that, I said, I've got a responsibility for the safety of these 70,000 people. But I want to see Mobile do good too, and it's my town also. So then I got to looking at the law, the Zogby Act that was passed in 1985, and it had a clause in there that if you want to change or amend it, you could do that with a petition drive with 10% of the number of people that voted in the last election. So as I studied that, I thought, times are different than they were in 1985, and I think we're better than that. But how can you manage a city when you've got to get 71.6% of the vote to pass everything? And I thought of some examples of what a couple of years ago, it took the city council 2 years to appoint a permanent police chief. It recently took them 2 years to appoint a city council president. And a few weeks ago, they waited to the very last day to approve an Amtrak train application for a grant. Right. And I said, it's just ineffective. And I'll just tell you, the sleeping elephant in the room, some people say it's racial involved, but twice we elected a black gentleman with a white majority, and twice we've elected a white man with a black majority. And of these 13,000 people in West Mobile, over 3,500 of them were minority or people of color. So we've denied them the opportunity. So it hurt me bad to know that we're denying people the right to vote. So that's it in a nutshell, why I said, I'm the person that can get out front of this and convince the community that we can do better for our community. If a city's not growing, it's dying.
And you look at the issue of Baldwin County being another drawing, it's like a magnet to where people who have jobs downtown don't mind coming across the Bay Bridge every morning. And so we've lost a lot of population to that area. Then, of course,
West
the subdivisions in West Mobile.
So we're at a crossroads, and this is my fear, is that if we don't allow the folks that want to come in and want to increase their taxes and be part of the city, they could create their own city of well over 100,000 people, half the size of Mobile, more than half the size. And what scares me then is once they create that city, if they do, then they would probably create their own school system. We need to keep our school system intact. We're trying our best and all like that, but we don't need to start cutting up our school system. And so I'm just saying, wake up, Mobile. Wake up, elected officials. We can do better. So
what kind of reaction are you getting from this, since you're talking about changing something that was put into effect to change things for the better at that time, but here we are in the 21st century, and so are you getting some understanding and people willing to talk and discuss this?
Everybody sort of, different people have different political agendas. Early on in this debate that some people said that maybe I was scheming and an outsider trying to do it. Well, look, I've been here my whole life. I've been here, living here longer.
And the city is in Mobile County, correct?
And the city is in Mobile County. And so, for comparison purposes, a lot of people say, let's look at what happened to Birmingham. I just recently found this out in my research, that Jefferson County has not grown in 50 years. The county hasn't grown, and the city of Birmingham lost population for 50 years and just stabilized their population about 2 years ago. So the same could happen to Mobile, and I like to tell people, as goes Mobile County. Another reason why I say I've got a vested interest, and I don't have any agenda except making Mobile better, making Mobile grow. Not running for mayor. I think we've got to find mayor. But a lot of people think, why am I doing that? No, I'm not. I've got the job that I love, and I tell people I think I'm in my last full-time job.
All right. Well, we're going to stop on that point, take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get a little bit more about that, and as well as how do we compare to those other cities where they have that type of council situation. So we'll talk about that and more. Perspectives this morning continues in just a moment with Sheriff Sam Cochran. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Perspectives, and we're talking this morning with Sheriff Sam Cochran, and we were talking about the annexation issue. And one of the things that the Grow Mobile organization, or tell us first, who is that organization?
Well, it's me and a bunch of other volunteers that saw the need that we needed to do something, and so we created a nonprofit corporation organization to help with the economic development of Mobile and Mobile County, primarily through annexation. Now, you can grow cities from within somewhat, but the majority of cities, such as Huntsville and Montgomery and others, Tuscaloosa, they grow through annexation as well. You know, the annexation, you create the growth on your outer borders when you have a city, and that's really the growth you created, and the people want to still be part of the city. And
how many years has that area been growing outside of the city limits of Mobile?
Well, it's been growing for many years. Yeah. Now, see, the past two administrations have had annexation votes, and some have passed and some have failed, which is what you want, I guess. You want people to have a say-so. But this currently, you know, the reason I got involved in this was this current administration decided not to allow the people in West Mobile to have a vote, and that cuts deep to some people. You know, they just feel everybody should have a right to vote.
When you look at that supermajority issue, how do you approach those who are seeing the benefit of it now, but of course where they were in 1985 is a whole different matter of discussion. So how do you approach them and get them to understand that you're looking at moving Mobile to a different place? Well,
you know, I'll point out to them that twice we've elected a black gentleman a mayor with a white majority, and twice we've elected a white man with a black majority in the city. So I think that speaks volumes, and we don't see the supermajority in other cities, and we don't see the supermajority on other boards in Mobile County. You know, things such as the school board and other things like that. And we see these other cities function, but we've been able to point out where this situation has hurt Mobile in many votes. And, you know, here's an ironic thing that I like to point out. You know, Councilman Richardson, he would be the chairman of the city council had they not had the supermajority vote. Initially, there were 4 votes to make him city council chairman, and he would have been the senior person.
But they needed the 5th.
They needed the 5th, and so he couldn't get the 5th, and he lost out.
When you look at what's ahead, where do you see this going once you get the petition at the percentage amount that you need? What was that number again?
The number is 10%, 10%. And the number that voted in the last election was just shy of 50,000. So we need roughly 4,991 votes, but the organization is shooting for several thousand more than that, just to be on the safe side if any votes did not, you know, stand up to scrutiny or something. But they have to be Mobilians to sign the petition, and then when the petition is furnished and the vote is held, then it has to be qualified electors, meaning registered voters, to actually vote in it, to then allow the city council maybe to once again allow West Mobilians to vote to come in.
Okay, and so are you preparing them for that point once you get the numbers?
Well, I've held a news press release, and we put out the information and stuff like that. And there's, you know, some lively debate, I guess is the best way to say. But you know, it'll take a couple of months for us to get the petitions, and then we'll go forward there.
All right, well, definitely keep us up to date with that. Anayas Law, another thing that law enforcement has looked at, and so we have a problem with this. And in fact, you have an update today on that.
Yeah, I was just updated today, and that the bill has passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and so the next things ahead of it are to go before the full Senate, which we believe it will pass, and then the next step would be it would be on a ballot, because it's a constitutional amendment that people have to endorse that would allow judges to hold certain individuals charged with certain violent offenses in jail without any bonds, and it would save the lives of people such as Anaya Blanchard and others. We've spoke about this problem for a number of years, but Anaya Blanchard's death is what really was the catalyst to finally get the momentum behind this.
And of course, the young lady there who was in the Auburn community and attending school, and attacked and murdered by someone who should have been, I guess, in jail.
Would have been under these conditions had gotten out on bond for a kidnapping and a robbery and a violent offense against another lady.
You know, when you look at the different laws that we have to address now from where we are today, the lock it up was another one that you saw need to address, and we've gotten some action on that.
Yes, we did. The lock it up bill, I guess you would say, we were having a terrible problem with people stealing guns out of automobiles, and the fact that the stealing of the guns was only a misdemeanor if you found them with a stolen gun. So we made the theft or the possession of a firearm that was stolen to at least be a felony, and of course through public announcements and other things, we have decreased the number of people leaving guns in unlocked vehicles. That was a huge problem for us in this community.
And you know, the reports that we have when we do the caught in the act stuff, we still have people today who need to lock those vehicles when they have them parked at their homes.
Oh, I put out a Twitter release or something I think I saw on your station a while back where a young man had a gun in the middle of the night and he was entering someone's car with this gun holding over, and I thought, here's another reason why you should keep your doors locked, because he would have walked up, found it was locked and kept on going, but if you would have heard noise in your backyard and walked out to see what it was, he may very well have shot and killed you.
And of course we had that incident happen
right
in West Mobile.
We did.
Yeah. When you look at the respect now of law enforcement officers, the state attorney general recently had a news conference addressing that. 13, or actually 7 killed in the last 13 months, including a sheriff.
Yes. It's just awful that maybe the respect and the level of violence exhibited by some individuals against law enforcement. And law enforcement, it's just a more dangerous job for them, and there are more firearms on the street, and I think that contributes to this. Also, there's more firearms in the hands of younger people. Now, the Sheriff's Association fought for years the legislature reducing the age requirement to 18 to have a concealed carry permit. Previously, it was at the discretion of the sheriffs to be able to issue an 18-year-old, but then it made it mandatory that they shall issue them. And of course, the 18-year-old that killed Sheriff John Williams, he had a valid pistol permit, and that's an example why we fought it, and I think the legislature failed us in that respect.
Sheriff, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about law enforcement as well as your career here on Perspectives. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Perspectives, our conversations with Sheriff Sam Cochran. And Sheriff, you wanted to nail home something else on that point about that whole concealed carry and the age, as we were talking about the killing of law enforcement officers and especially losing Sheriff John Williams there in Lowndes County.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, we've battled different bills in the legislature, and one of the things that we battled a few years ago and we lost was previously the sheriffs had the discretion to deny a pistol permit, and many of us would not issue them to 18-year-olds, but the legislature, against the wishes of the sheriffs, made it mandatory that all 18-year-olds could get a concealed carry. And in the case of Big John Williams, the sheriff, he was actually killed by an 18-year-old who had obtained a concealed carry permit. And you know, that's an example of where I feel like the legislature sort of failed us.
And of course, you're concerned about the maturity of the individual.
That's right, because the sheriff can look at the individual. He may be somebody that's a very bright young man or something and very mature, but then you can have some others that are not. And then, of course, you can look at their juvenile record maybe, but see, when they turn 18, their record is wiped clean, and so you wouldn't be able to see their juvenile record in some of those cases. Maybe somebody served time in state school and he gets out and then he's got a clean record and he qualifies. So, you know, look, the law enforcement and the police chiefs and sheriffs are the experts, but sometimes the people in the legislature are misled by other people's agenda.
Well, here's one that just happened today also, where the House has passed a bill requiring the violent offenders on work release now to wear electronic monitoring devices. Is that one that you all were pushing for too?
Yeah, I support that for sure. You know, we've had some glaring examples of people escaped from work release, people that were in work release for murder and aggravated assault.
We're looking for someone right now, in fact.
We are, a murder suspect. So, you know, first you probably beg the question, like, how does this happen? Yes. How do they get on work release? Well, at some point in time, though, some of these violent offenders are going to get out of prison, and work release is used as a manner in which to kind of get somebody to slowly get back in the community, if you will. But it's showing that maybe some are being put out there too early, because why would somebody want to escape a work release center if they're already getting close to the tunnel at the end of the, the light at the end of the tunnel, and then make an escape, which sends them right back to prison? And
that's the question we ask every morning when we read that story, in fact.
Exactly.
Why would they want to mess it up at this particular point? When you're looking at these laws and you're trying to work with the legislators, you seem to have a lot of good rapport and results locally, but then once you all go statewide, it seems that there's some people that just don't quite understand.
That's right. There's some very differences of opinions around the state, and different parts of the state, if you'd say pockets of the state, have very strong feelings different than what sometimes our feelings are down here, and that's where all this stuff molds and clashes together, is in Montgomery at the State House. And we have to rely on our legislators that we elect from our district to represent our values and morals down here, and then they have to learn to work and mold with the values and other things of other people in the state.
We've talked about a lot of violence-related things this morning. Are we in a more violent time where you're seeing these things, since you've been for a few years in law enforcement and had a chance to look at the different areas?
Yes, Eric. Here's our terrible problem we have right now: mental illness. Mental illness is just out of control, not just in Mobile County, but throughout the state. Just in the last 4 or 5 months, you may recall, we had 3 Mobile County Sheriff's deputies have to shoot and kill people that were suffering from mental illness. 2 of them fired weapons at the officers, and another was chasing the deputy with a big claw hammer. Then we had another instance where a lady that was mentally ill entered into this man's trailer that she thought was her ex-boyfriend, and somehow she got a gun out from under the cushion, was going to kill him, and so he opened fire and killed her. And then just recently again, we had a guy that was mentally ill beat his wife to death with a baseball bat. So 5 cases, and I know of one other case where we did talk a guy with a gun, talk him down and dropping it, and he said, "I wanted y'all to kill me." So it's a terrible case, and I'm hoping the state, pending in the legislature right now, they're trying to fund 3 mental health emergency homes and put them 3 ports in the state. And I've asked our local legislators, if that passed, please try to insist that you get one in Mobile County.
Yes.
Because once Searcy closed, we just don't have the space or the places to take them.
And that's so important today. We're seeing that. Quick question, Bodycam. You always get the question about that, and so far you say you don't see the benefit, and that's due to some of the legal ramifications?
Yes, there's a bill in the legislature right now trying to regulate it, and all the parties at odds with each other, and so it's not going to go nowhere because there's competing interest in that, and the law is just not clear, and some of the statistics are not showing out that what kind of impact they have. I'll tell you, they're very expensive. And again, since they're unregulated still in Alabama, it's just not there yet. But I'll tell you, in most instances, we have more than enough video. The minute an officer or deputy arrives on a scene where there's you suspect something's getting ready to happen, there are so many civilians that have their phones up filming, and quite frankly, I've just not had a situation where getting to the truth of a matter is unavailable. There's always physical evidence, eyewitnesses, and things at the scene that you can piece together what happened. So
the mobile phone has changed a lot of things as it relates to that.
My goodness, the mobile phone, the smartphone, the deputy can do his own crime scene, taking pictures and everything on the scene, now.
Team Sheriff, you're recruiting. Is it more difficult now to get law enforcement officers?
It is, because of, you mentioned earlier in the show, the number of killings of law enforcement officers. Every time something like that happens here or across the country, not only do our law enforcement officers see that, but their families see it. So their families are saying, "Honey, please get out of this profession. It's too dangerous. Can't you do something else?" So it shrinks and then the people that want to be maybe are talked out of it. So it shrinks our pool of recruiting people, and of course we lose some people when they see it happen. They get an enormous amount of pressure by their loved ones to seek a different profession.
We thank you for devoting 45 years of your life to it, and as well both city and county, and of course we're here to support you, so keep up the great work, and we look forward to hearing more as we talk about these issues affecting our Sheriff's Department.
We certainly appreciate y'all at Fox 10.
All right. Sheriff Sam Cochran today on Perspectives. Don't forget to join us again next Saturday morning at 9 as we discuss important issues and seek solutions. And of course, drop us a line if you have any ideas you'd like to see here on the program. I'm Eric Reynolds. Have a great day and week ahead.